I figured we'd shut off the time lapse for a little bit. You know, I put a couple of these up earlier. I did one on camera already in time lapse. Figure I can, let me get a little closer here. Figure I could do one that's not on time lapse. Maybe you guys see how long it takes to put this thing up. You know, I'd shot a bunch of footage throughout the night of cutting mortises and housings and stuff like that, but you know, you guys have seen it so many times, it's nothing new for you, but this is new. So this worked out a little bit better than I thought it would. All I did was I built a frame up above out of 16-foot long 2x6s, two of them screwed together. It worked out pretty well. It's screwed into the floor. I've got it braced on one end, the end that pulls this way, I've got a brace on it. It actually worked out pretty well. I mean, these things aren't really light, so the only thing I don't like about it, it's a little rough on the tenons going up, dragging them across the concrete. You know, sometimes you just have to live with what you have so you can get the job done, and that's kind of where I'm at right now with it. We get this one up. I've got one more to put up there, and then like I said, this weekend hopefully it looks like I'm supposed to get rained out pretty good here Saturday and Sunday, but in between raindrops. If it's raining, I'm sorry guys, I won't be running the camera for this side, but if it's not raining, I'll turn the camera on, or maybe we'll rig up something for the camera. So anyway, we're gonna turn the time lapse off. I'll put this up here in real time, then you guys can see what we have going on. The fun part about a chain hoist, it takes a little bit of time, but it works really well. I kind of like that though, slow, controlled. Basically all I got to do now that I got the top of that thing up there, all I really have to do is get that hook back down here on the other end. I'll rig it up down here on the other scarf, and as we pull it up, it's going to slide it up onto the second floor. A little bit of manhandling once I get it up there, but I'm sure I'll be able to show you guys one in daylight, because this is how all the 8x8s and everything are going to have to go up also, because my tractor does not pick high enough to get stuff up onto the second floor. I suppose I could make extensions for that contraption there, and it would probably work all right, but to be quite honest with you, I'd rather be, this time of year I want to get my time towards this, not making more stuff to make this easier. even if it would save me a bunch of time. Alright, here we go. Also remember, I've got to put these up, the top part. I've got this thing flipped upside down so it's sliding up on the reference face, but that's only so I'm not catching that scarf joint, hooking it on the floorboard there before I can pull it up and over, because I really don't want to fight it. I also have to have it on an angle like this, the bottom kicked out, because if I just go straight up, it's just going to knock that frame that I built for it. Now, this part I don't like. I don't really like being under this thing, but I tested it out pretty well earlier, kept a good eye. The first one, you know, you do something new, you try something different, and the first one's always a little puckers your ass a little bit because you don't know if you're going to drop it on yourself. Here we go. Get this one flipped over where it's supposed to be. There we go. There we go, guys. You guys getting your entertainment yet? Odd feeling being under something this heavy. If I don't know if the camera does it justice, but I'm trying real hard to stay to one side of this and not get right underneath this thing, because if that frame gives out or something like that, it wouldn't take much. This thing would crush me. Because I know some of you are going to point that right out. There we go, guys. Just sliding up and in. Drop a little bit once we get that tenon past that tie beam. We'll take it real easy if you're doing that. Alright, now I got to go up above and do a little wrangling. Tell you, sometimes I feel like maybe we do some stupid shit on this channel. But it's working out as long as I can keep from, as long as I can keep from dropping it on myself. There we go, guys, it's up there. How long did that take? 11 minutes and 33 seconds. That's not too bad. Well, how'd you guys like that? I think it worked out all right. I mean, it's certainly not a perfect science, but you know what? It beats the alternatives, which honestly, the alternatives for me, if I can't do this thing by myself, it's not going to get done. But I like how that worked out. I do like chain hoist. You know, they're slow. That's the only thing with a chain hoist is they're slow, but that's all right. It also means you're a little more controlled with it. there are times on this project where I'm probably taking some risks that maybe I shouldn't be taking. I had to do a lot of thinking and a lot of considering before I decided to use this method to put this thing up here. You're putting a lot of faith and a lot of trust into equipment. And whereas I trust the hydraulics on the tractor, I trust the ropes and the slings I'm using, it's hard to trust a winch or something like that when you have that kind of weight. When you have that kind of weight dangling over your head. Now, I don't know if it was easy to tell or not, but I'd keep myself to one side or the other of it. Never get underneath of that thing where that thing's in line with my chest, because geez, if that thing busted, slipped out or anything like that, I'd be the end of this channel, I'll tell you that, and my wife would probably get a nice life insurance check. But of course I don't know if they grant life insurance checks for stupidity, but it's always worth a shot, you know what I mean? So I thought we'd do something a little different too tonight and wrapping up. Usually I just do a real fast, see you guys later, thanks for watching, but some of your guys' questions are starting to pile up a little bit, and normally I would do a Q&A video by now, but to be honest with you, this is the time of year I gotta haul ass on this project, because pretty much by December of last year, I started putting this thing up in like November last fall. End of December, early January, I was pretty much done for the winter, and it wasn't because of snow. We had one of those rare winters where we just had constant freezing rain, and that is so rare up here. Normally, you know, we're 10, 15, 20 below zero for at least a month all winter long. We didn't get that last year. We had mud and we had rain, and then by the time the snow hit, everything was just a mess. But plus I have cows and stuff that take they require quite a bit more upkeep in the wintertime. So then once we hit spring, it was time to get ready for haying season. Then once we hit summer, I was in the hay fields, and if I wasn't in the hay field, it was raining and pouring. So like I said, this is the time of year, you know. If a lot of people say, geez, you better get that thing up there before it rots away, I have a lot of people locally telling me that, and I just tell them, you know, what the hell do you think I'm doing sitting here on my thumbs, you know? I'm trying to get it done, but it's the way it goes. But we're making really good progress. I'm actually really happy with the progress we're making. You know, you don't see a lot go up fast. You don't see a lot of progress day to day. But you spend a week or two cutting joinery, you know, a couple hours here, a couple hours there, at least the way I'm working on it. Then all of a sudden you put it all together and you put it up, and it's just a big jump in progress. You know, I keep saying these top plates, these are the last of my larger timbers that I have to work on, and that's really exciting. But hey, we're still on the second floor, you know. But anyhow, I keep getting off track here, what I wanted to do. So, Jim Stew asked, do you check your layout from slab on grade to the top for your top plates? And what he meant by that, because we had a little back and forth in the comments, you know, nothing bad or anything, no arguing. Jim was one of the early subscribers who tuned in, but anyway, you know, we communicated back and forth a little bit on it, and what he meant was, how am I checking the top of the top plates to make sure that they haven't changed from the bottom, if the building grew or not. So how I did that when I was putting this up, every bent gets leveled. You know, everything gets leveled out. All of my girts get cut the same length, you know, from bent to bent. And then what I'd do is I'd take a good straight edge and I'd level that straight edge along the girt, because my next wall post going into that, if I cut everything right, those girts should sit tight into their housings. There shouldn't be any gaps there. So I had that throughout, and I knew that if I had a gap somewhere, I got off somewhere, make the correction I needed to make, and then finish putting it up. So I measured across, before I did these top plates, I measured across from post to post down here, and I measured from post to post up there, and those are the marks that we transferred onto these top plates, and that worked out pretty well. It was pretty good. I mean, it was, if I had a 1/4 inch of a difference between top and bottom, that was about it. And I'm not going to complain about that, guys. I'm I may be building a type of church for myself, for my workshop, but at the end of the day, this is a barn. I want to do a good job on it, but it is a barn. So, another one, Robert Whelan wanted to know how I won the battle with the chain mortiser. What I did with the chain mortiser, I took a Dremel and I just cleaned up some edges that were worn out, reground a little bit to get the locking mechanism to work again. It wasn't too hard. I do need to get the, like I said, that's a 7103 chain mortiser. That's the only one I've ever seen. I saw one come up in a forum here maybe 6 months ago, but other than that, that's the only one I've seen. Everything else is the 7104Ls that most of us use, or most of the timber framers use here. I'm debating on whether I want to, when this project is done, sell that mortiser and get the 7104L, which would probably be a smarter move, or do I want to take that mortiser and put a 7104L clamping base on it. That one, the 7104L, actually has 3 tilt positions on it. This only has 2, so there's a lot more adjusting and stuff like that, so I'll probably trade those out. And so that's that. Let's see what else we got. Hey, Mark Eves wanted to know, can you feel the plate tightening as you hammer the wedges in? And he is talking about the tie beams. So that was the video that he had commented on. So what I do when I put these up, and I know some of you probably noticed the one bent and the one scarf joint that doesn't have wedges in it yet. That's because I'm a terrible procrastinator for the little stuff. I mean terrible. I'll put a project off for something tiny. It's awful. It is a big time character flaw I have. I don't do it at work, but when I'm at home, that's the kind of stuff I end up doing. So what I did to draw these things tight as I put these bents up, because you guys saw how I did it, I was raising half a bent at a time for this first floor, then I put the other half of the bent, and then put the scarves together up in the air. And you know, I really wanted to be able to stand the whole thing up at once, but I didn't trust it not to break in the middle on me. So, but anyhow, what I did, I made like a temporary wedge out of pine just to drive in there, to spread those scarf joints, to push them into each other, and then I timber locked the piss out of them. I know it's cheating, and a lot of the purists, you know, they'll probably have my ass in the comments for it, but that's what worked for me. So I'd get them as tight as I could, timber lock the piss out of them, drive the wedge out. And I did that for all of them. So when I did the final wedges, no, they did not tighten up anymore. They are already as tight as I was going to get them. Being my first timber frame build here, I have totally fallen in love with this process. I really enjoy it. I'm not sick of working on it yet at all. I mean, I'm on a Facebook group where I asked a question, you know, how do you guys who do this for a living, how'd you get into it? And you get a lot of the same answers, you know, be prepared to starve type thing, but I guess it is what it is. But being my first frame, I kept everything simple. I've kept all the joints simple. I've kept them all standard rules for layouts, things like that, because one, I did not get this engineered. I probably should have. If this was my house, I would have had it engineered, but I've said before in previous videos when we were talking about the design and the process for all that, I had decided to try to figure this all out on my own. And I'm glad I did, because I've learned a lot in this experience. And remember guys, I read up on this for 6 or 7 years before I even decided that I was going to do this. I just got to a point where I was so taken with the building method, that I had to try it out myself. And it's like anything else you want to do in life. You look at it and it's like, wow, you can daydream about it. It's going to be so great when I'm doing it, you know. And I've had a lot of projects like that over the years where I built it up huge in my head, and then it was totally different than what I expected. This project has not been that way. This has been everything I've expected. The only thing I didn't expect was the time it was going to take me to do it, or the amount of board footage that was going to go into it. I'm going to have probably into the frame and into the into the frame and the floor decking, I'm probably going to have close to 30,000 board feet of material into this. That's a lot of lumber. But when this thing's done, it shouldn't go anywhere. So anyhow, I'm kind of running on into some time here, but I thought maybe you guys would like a little bit more conversation. We haven't done it in quite a while. So anyway, you guys have a good evening. I'll catch you on the next one.